So you talk about two of them being more ready than the other of the 5 sites.
Correct.
So are you saying, we talk about let's take all 5 sites and let's move to this stage and this stage. Are you saying if one gets out in front and it's ready to go now, make it more dense and do more units out of the ones you can do?
No, because I think you're going to need to have a plan for tower options and lower than tower options. So those tower sites at Sherbourne, I can go back on the slides here somewhere, the sites on Sherbourne and Queen's Wharf, they're appropriate for a tower.
Yeah.
That parking lot makes sense for a tower, same at Queen's Wharf. The other sites are, they're smaller locations. So staff have already been talking about 10 to 12 story passive house boxes. The most important thing on those smaller sites is that you create a kit that you can reproduce over and over and over again on all of these green P parking lots, LCBO parking lots, whatever parcels you have. It has to stop being boutique, artisanal, snowflake, handcrafted, affordable housing projects. We need to get back into mass production of affordable housing.
So, very compelling presentation. We're taking advice from you. But if you go looking, who are councillors exposed to? If we're looking for, will this work? Sometimes the easiest go-to is to ask a developer. We all interact with private developers all the time. Will they tell us the things you're telling us, or are they a little bit conflicted?
Sure they will.
Depends on who the developer is. There are some very good developers. There are some not so very good developers, but none of this is rocket science. We're people who do this stuff off the side of our desks. Your staff at CreateTO and at the Housing Secretariat understand some of this math. They're just not as free to be as frank as we are with you about it. And at this point, we can't mess around. We have to talk real numbers. We have to tell the neighbors, like, we can't waste our time talking about a 15 or an 18-story building when it needs to be 26.
I guess conflicted is the wrong word. Their advice has to be filtered through their board of directors. So if they're all saying you guys should not even start because you can't do this, that's coming from some different place.
And because we haven't built affordable housing for 30 years in Toronto, we have lost some of that muscle memory, both in the not-for-profit sector and within our various levels of government. We've lost people in the last year. Nancy Singer from Kahila, who knew how to do this stuff. Nancy passed away. John from Mainstay passed away a year ago. And that knowledge is poof, gone. We're doing what we can with the U of T and TMU students to try to re-enable that, to give them some context. But there's a huge gap, but none of this is rocket science. You should be able to do these numbers by yourself via TCHC, but I would encourage the staff to put the numbers out in public. The problem has been with CreateTO, because you've been going out to bids. You've been sort of putting the numbers behind a wall, and those numbers need to be publicly discussed so people understand it is $500,000 for an affordable housing unit now.
Right, so we can be more public when it's our project.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the research.